Gojo vs Sukuna is on a timer. A couple days ago, I made a Gojo vs Mahoraga video and how I think the story is going to proceed. And while I still believe Gojo will reveal a new technique or something new, I want to talk about some new thoughts I have after rereading these chapters a few times. But what do I mean by the fight is on a timer? Well, first, I want to take a look at the adaptation of the wheel, and just how dangerous this situation is for Gojo. Because right now, Sukuna is probably sleeping, but if he wakes up and Mahoraga is not dead, Gojo is going to lose every single domain clash, and Sukuna is probably going to move on from stubbornly using the sure hit of Cleave and Dismantle. Sukuna is still hiding his technique, so he has a ton of cards to play, and Gojo is Gojo, so he's just going to play whatever he wants. And the more we look at the wheel, the more ridiculous it gets, and there are a ton of misconceptions around this ability. Contrary to popular belief, the wheel's adaptation is not just limited to a technique. During Sukuna's fight with Mahoraga, he says that Cleave should fit the criteria for killing Mahoraga in one shot, unless it has adapted not to dismantle, but to slashing attacks in general. And after Malevolent Shrine clears up, we see that Mahoraga is still alive and regenerating. And prior to this, Mahoraga showed its ability to adapt its offense in response to Sukuna's defense after the wheel had turned over its head. So far, this thing really does adapt to any and all phenomena, and after it was tamed, the adaptation looks even worse. It is 2 for 2 on shattering domains and completely ignoring the effects of them. And let's talk about domain expansions and their role as the pinnacle of Jujutsu. A lot of people jump on this statement, and rightfully so, because it's true, a domain expansion is the pinnacle of Jujutsu. Your technique imbued into your domain is going to be more devastating than one on its own. But that does not mean that the sure hit you chose to imbue into your domain is always the best option for the current battle. And Gojo wonders himself as to why Sukuna is refusing to use anything but Cleave and Dismantle in his sure hit when he has access to 10 shadows. And we see characters like Kenjaku imbuing anti-gravity techniques into their domain's sure hit when that is absolutely not the only technique this guy has access to, let alone his original technique. So when I hear people say that Gojo and Sukuna are completely finished because they already used their domain expansions and they lost domain clashes, that is just such a simplification of what a domain expansion is. There are binding vows attached to your domains, ways to increase the output of your chosen technique inside of your domain, simple domains, barriers being strengthened by making them smaller. There are so many options that can change the entire outcome. A domain expansion, like everything else a Jujutsu sorcerer uses, is a tool for victory, and both of these characters have more tools to show, and it is insane to say that Gojo is gassed out against one Shikigami and that Sukuna is going to die before he's even revealed his technique. But to get back to the initial statement of this video and why Gojo vs Sukuna is on a timer, reading back through these chapters, I've noticed some interesting things, specifically after we first see the tiny Black Dwarf domain. We start to get actual numbers on how long these domain clashes are lasting. An interesting thing here I want to note is that this is headcanon for me, obviously, but I wonder if they're keeping track of the amount of time that Sukuna was in Unlimited Void, because Gojo can get a rough estimate of how long it takes to damage somebody inside of Unlimited Void or how long they are going to be stunned for. So I'm curious to see if in next chapter we are going to have Meimei and Kusakabe give us an actual number as to how long Gojo has to defeat Mahoraga before Sukuna wakes up. And I think that could make for a really cool chapter and a really cool Gojo moment, and would also be a similar situation to what we saw with Mahoraga in Shibuya against Sukuna, where Sukuna had a limited amount of time to find out what Mahoraga's ability was to kill it before Yuji took over his body again. Obviously, I'm assuming that Sukuna is going to be asleep next chapter for that, but if Gege wants to give us the 1v1 Mahoraga Gojo fight, this would be the only way to do it, unless we had a second character show up or Sukuna has some other reason for being incapacitated. And something I think that Gege did intentionally is after we know that the wheel is out and adapting, they only show us one of the 3 following domain clashes where Mahoraga inevitably comes out at the very end. So who knows what else the wheel has adapted to that Gojo used inside those domains we did not see. We only saw 2 wheel turns, but like in Shibuya, 1 wheel turn did not mean one thing adapted to. Mahoraga simultaneously adapted its offense, its defense against Dismantle, and healed itself in a single wheel turn. Is that going to be carried over here? Honestly, I'm not sure. We don't have a lot of information about the wheel and how far it can go and what its weaknesses actually are. All we really know is that it can seemingly adapt to anything, and once it is adapted to you, you are pretty much boned. I would be unbelievably surprised if we did not see Gojo use a maximum technique in this fight. Geto had access to maximum techniques when he was far weaker than Gojo, and it's just a crazy idea to think we would never see Gojo pull out something like this in this fight. And 200% Hollow Purple, that was really just the front runner to this whole fight in the first place. So really, we kind of started off with a bang, and we're going to have a bigger attack eventually. I mean, if Yuki has a black hole and Gojo doesn't have something else that is completely wild and just out there, I'd be amazed. If Mahoraga is in a 1v1 with Gojo, I think it's only fair he actually kills the Shikigami. Not only would killing Mahoraga leave room for a totality for Megumi later if he does manage to save him, it also leaves room for the original demon form of Sukuna to come out, fight Gojo, and not be overshadowed by Mahoraga. Because Mahoraga really seems like something that Gege Akutame, Gojo, and Sukuna, they're all thinking about. Obviously, all the thoughts of Gojo and Sukuna are from Gege, but you get my idea. The point is that both Gojo and Sukuna knew that Mahoraga was the big factor in this fight up until this point. That's really what we were building up to. The moment Gege showed us in the shadows that the wheel has been active, Sukuna has been adapting, everything so far in this fight makes a lot more sense. Mahoraga was the major wild card going into this fight, and now we know it was down there juicing up, getting fed by the adaptation this whole time, and once that's revealed, the whole fight just looks so much better, because a lot of people were very bored by parts of this fight, and they're like, why is Sukuna just using Cleave and Dismantle? Why are these guys holding back so much stuff and just domain slamming all the time? And in Gojo's defense, domain slamming with Unlimited Void, that is a good plan. Unlimited Void, that's a pretty good win button, arguably the best win button. Maybe not against Mahoraga, but that's like one Shikigami. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And Mahoraga coming out, that is a point in this fight where I am truly hyped, because this is where Gojo is going to get pushed, and I want to see Gojo get pushed. I want a tough victory. I want to see Gojo show me why he's him. And personally, I like the underdog in a fight. I don't like power fantasies that much. I don't like the idea of Gojo or Sukuna just no diff clearing everything all the time. And in this fight, I'm rooting for Gojo because I want to see Gojo win and save Megumi, because that is such an important thing for his character to do in this story. He is the guy for the job. Nobody else can get Megumi out of Sukuna besides maybe Yuji if he pops off later, but for all intensive purposes, it's Gojo. And I just don't see a world where Toji versus Gojo leaves Gojo closer to death before he wins or pulls off something amazing than Gojo versus Sukuna does. The best moments in anime are built upon a hero almost dead. That's all I'm saying. And really, I just want to see Gojo forcibly rip the Sukuna out of a Megumi. Is that too much to ask? But that's just my opinion, and I want to hear yours. What do you think about Gojo versus Sukuna, Mahoraga coming out, and the future of Jujutsu Kaisen? But until this fight is officially over, I wouldn't suggest underestimating the abilities of Gojo Satoru or Ryomen Sukuna. And if you like content like this, subscribe for more. And as always, thanks for watching.